Molo, Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday, yay! Welcome to it, as always, on the Friday edition show you can look forward to at the end, either a moomish of the week or loser of the week or a champ of the week. So keep in tune for that. Speaking about staying in tune, find us at our website at bigdaddyliberty.com. There, of course, you can also pledge some support to the show. Easy peasy, go on the website, scroll to the bottom, and you'll find various payment options where you can contribute 100 Rand to the show. But hey, hang on now. Where are my manners? Excuse me, dear South Africans. My name is Usihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty, and as I always say, welcome to it. You're watching Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. Now, if you like how we begin your news day here on the show, or you'll love our friends over at the Daily Friend, who come to you live Mondays to Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. And they'll help you wrap up your news day. dailyfriend.co.za. Now, with that being said, enough of the jibber jabber. How about we get straight into the news? All right, I take you now to the Eastern Cape. Now, I take you here on purpose because here's a story of that maybe typifies yesterday's episode of the Big Daddy Liberty Show's Vuka Nazo. There it is. Where, if you remember, we spoke about the recent crime stats that pointed out that really crime in this country is escalating. It is out of control. There is more criminality in South Africa now than there is actual law enforcement. And it's typified by when you look at the data, the stats around serious and contact crimes, such as murder, for instance, where, over the period of July, a mere 3 months, 92 days, from July to September, over 7,000 South Africans have been murdered. Guys, effectively, 76 plus South Africans a day are being gunned down. 76 South Africans, fellow South Africans, are not going home because they are murdered on the streets. Now, even as I say this, I want to give a stronger sense by using this tiny case study of this community of BT, which is 40 kilometers outside of the Mthatha in the Eastern Cape, of what exactly we're talking about here. How criminals, as I said, operate with impunity. They do not fear law enforcement at all. No matter how much a certain asshat of a police minister thinks criminals fear his tough talking ways.
Criminals must feel you, must taste you.
Minister of Police in this country, Bheki, is a media whore, nothing more. He's not seen by South African criminals as a threat to their ways, their criminal and evil ways. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. As I said, I'll take you to the community of BT, where here's a community who, recognizing that the police were failing them in dealing with stock theft. Now remember, criminals always affect three things: your life, your liberty, your freedoms, and of course your property rights. Now here's a community of BT that was trying to protect its property rights against thieves, stock thieves, by forming an organization which they called the Masifunisane Crime Prevention Forum. Now again, this formation was, in a sense, one of the more prominent community members in the area was one Mlamli Mgxada. Now, Mlamli Mgxada is the topic of the story, where because of his stance of wanting to stand up against the criminals in the area, it has cost him a lot. And what do I mean by a lot? Not only has it cost him the life of his wife, who was gunned down by these criminals, presumably, who felt threatened by this organization, but those same criminals then proceeded to gun down a further 7 of his family members. Goodness me, the story is just heartbreaking, if anything else. We're talking, of course, a situation where after his wife, as I mentioned, was gunned down 3 weeks ago, 7 family members, as I mentioned, were then also shot during the preparations for that funeral to bury his wife. I want to quickly read from this Daily Maverick, piece, which wrote the story up and really detailed just how not only Mr. Mgxada is living in fear, but the community itself in that part of the world is simply under fear of these criminals who are murderous in their approach to things. Let me quickly read from this. Now, according to a police incident report, the attack on the 7 mourners took place on Wednesday, the 16th of November at around 11:30 p.m. 3 unknown men forced their way into the homestead and opened fire. 6 people died at the scene and a 7th in hospital. Now, this is where it gets really dark for me because, you know, this is a mass murder incident, but the whole community has faced a situation where residents of the area are being gunned down like flies. It reads on and says, in the past 2 weeks, 20 people have been gunned down in areas around BG, according to Ubovulengwe Mgxada, who of course is the chief of the Matiekina administrative area. He goes on as being quoted as saying that people are being killed daily in the surrounding areas and people are afraid to speak out because they are fearing for their lives. End of quote. Now, you have a situation here that paints the reality for ordinary South Africans. Again, using this community of BG as an example. Murderers in this country, criminals in this country rule the roost. It's not law enforcement that people are looking to save them in these situations, but actually themselves. And there is a cost, unfortunately, for many who decide to fight against criminality. Now, I don't say this to try and scare the rest of us out of taking a stand against criminality, but more instead to point out that actually you have to be prepared and we have to start empowering communities to actually fight back and literally fight fire with fire. Often these communities who do decide to stand against the crime in the area do so in a very unprepared way. Where now you have a situation where Mr. Mgxada, who I mentioned, who lost his wife and these 7 family members, is now living in hiding. That same Daily Maverick piece basically detailing and quoting him as saying the following. "I'm scared," he says. "They can kill me at any time. I'm no longer sleeping in this house. I'm hiding somewhere, protecting my life. I will return to my house the day I receive the news that these thugs are arrested, but not now," he said, as he spoke, of course, to Daily Maverick. Now, he speaks about these thugs being arrested. Who do you think should be at the helm of this sort of thing? Of course, the South African Police Service. And who predictably showed up in BG to show his support, of course, with a throng of media following behind him? Yeah, that's right, the asshat Police Minister, Vuka Nazo, who on Tuesday, by the way, visited the area, of course, surrounded by a throng of automatic rifle-carrying police officers. And of course, he was joined by his cabinet colleague, Uzizwe Koto, who's the Deputy Minister of State Security in that part of the world. Can you imagine just that contrast? As I conclude the story, just look at that contrast. The minister shows up, safely ensconced around, surrounded by bodyguards who are heavily armed. No stock-thief murderer is going to affect Vuka Nazo. Shows up to this community, probably says and pontificates about how he'll do this and he'll deploy those resources and yada, 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 yada. And then as a community member in that area, you know full well that when Vuka Nazo leaves with those police officers, the criminals come back into that area and do exactly what they've been doing before. That, dear South African, is exactly why crime in this country is not being beaten. Because far too often, the resources that should be in the hands of ordinary citizens are surrounding and are in the hands of the political elites in this country. That right there is exactly why the crime stats in this country are not improving. And until that changes, and more so, until you, the ordinary, sane, sober, moral, prudent type South African, the law-abiding South African, decide to take your own safety into your own hands, as I always say, to get training, get licensed, get a firearm, and then rally around fellow community members who have the same defensive mindset. Until that day happens, then you can bet your bottom dollar those crime stats will continue to paint a gruesome and bloody figure. All right, we are nearing ending today's show, and I'm determined to end the show on a slightly happier note. Indeed, a rare win for us as South Africans, or maybe for Western Cape residents. There's a big hint. Who is our champ of the week? Champ of the week is the Western Cape government and of course the City of Cape Town's LEAP offices. Yep, that's right, the LEAP offices, which is an initiative of the Western Cape government and city of Cape Town, where they, realizing that the national government under a certain asshat of a police minister were failing to contain crime in Cape Town and the Western Cape, as is the responsibility of national government because they run the South African police. Well, this provincial government and the city of Cape Town decided to pool their own resources in order to augment law enforcement resources in the city of Cape Town. And out of that came the LEAP officers, the LEAP law enforcement officers who have been hitting the streets and indeed being much more of a visible police contingent, especially in those hardened areas, hardened criminal areas of Cape Town. And indeed, we're seeing results. Let me quickly read a statement by the MACO member for safety and security in Cape Town, where after the recent crime stats were released, he actually says, you know what, we have some wins for a change. Here's what JP Smith had to say. Now, MACO member for safety and security, JP Smith, said LEAP officers deployed in the city's most dangerous communities had for the second consecutive quarter shown their impact on reducing crime and confirmed the city's case to the national government for more localized policing power. Now, JP Smith welcomed the fact that after LEAP was deployed to Philippi East in early 2022, that station had dropped from the top 30 crime zones, that over 12 months from October 2021 to September 2022, Guguletu saw a 30.6% decrease in murders, fantastic, and that in the same period Delft oversaw a 17.4% dip in murders, with contact crime also being down by 12.1%, end of quote. Now again, these are the sort of rare silver lining numbers that we're seeing, and indeed the right trajectory of where crime should be headed in this country, namely downward spiral. And maybe it's taking the city of Cape Town and Western Cape, both DA administered regions, to show that it can be done. It actually can be done. What can beat crime in South Africa is to have a well-resourced, efficient, professional, visible policing force that actually deals in a data-driven way, in an intelligence-driven way, deals with some of the more hardened criminal elements in this country. Congratulations to the City of Cape Town and Western Cape government. You are the champs of the week. All right, that's it for this episode of Vuka Nazo, folks, the Friday edition of the show. Hope you enjoyed it indeed. I was tempted to make Upegitele the loser of the week or Mumish of the week too, but I chose to have a champ of the week. Let me know what you think about that, and of course some of the points that we spoke about in the week. With that being said, I will see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. for Liberty and Friends as we unpack the news week that was, with greater detail, of course, with our Friends panel, who will help give us expert analysis, opinion, and views that you will get nowhere else except here on the BDL show. Speaking about the BDL show, find us on our website at bigdaddyliberty.com, and of course there you'll find all the episodes you may have missed, and indeed how you can support the show financially. With that being said, see you on Sunday, and indeed next week Monday for another episode of Vuka Nazo.